All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. The Power Paradigm, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. Technology, power, dominance. The practical anatomy of a modern delusion. A field guide for men who still notice reality. I sat in the family courtroom and watched the judge weigh my fatherhood against a checklist of emotional labor metrics. The state had codified a 1938-inspired domestic utility metric, turning my blood covenant with my son into a service contract where I was judged by how many tantrums I soothed and how much quality time I logged. The father had become a plumber, and paternity was now a billable skill. This is the vector away from natural law, the ontological reality of fatherhood, the bridge between mother and child, the transmitter of lineage, the provider of order has been replaced by an instrumental function. The state stole my authority and handed it to the highest bidder of emotional maintenance, and I felt the moral vertigo of a man who knows his duty but finds the law has redefined his very nature as a problem to be managed. Every man in that waiting room felt it, the silent revolution that turned our sacred vocation into a therapeutic checklist. We are not fathers anymore, we are weekend performers paying for the privilege of being judged by a system that despises what we are. The cosmos has an order, and this is a lie against it. Policy under examination. The institutionalization of plumbership in child custody. The statutory presumption that the parent who performs the highest volume of emotional labor and domestic maintenance, the plumber, holds superior fitness for custody. Overriding biological paternity and paternal competence, codified via the 1938-inspired domestic utility metric, where fatherhood is reduced to a service contract rather than a blood covenant. Family Court Custody Best Interests Checklist, Inspiration Year 1938. Natural Law Origin Point. The natural law of paternity, the father is the bridge between the mother and the child, the protector, the provider of order, and the transmitter of lineage. His authority is inherent in his biological role and his vow to the covenant, not his daily performance of chores or emotional soothing. Overall vector size? 8/10 minus the state has replaced the father with the plumber, turning the sacred duty of lineage into a billable service of emotional maintenance, thereby dissolving the family into a state-managed nursery. Vector map. The vector map for the policy Prussia, titled The Institutionalization of Plumbership in Child Custody, Inspiration Year, 1938. Institution. Family Court Custody Best Interests Checklist, presents an overall vector size of 8. Its natural law origin is the paternity as ontological reality. The father is the bridge between mother and child, protector, provider of order, and transmitter of lineage, with authority inherent to his biological and covenantal role rather than contingent on instrumental performance. Inversion Vector 1, the utility of blood, natural law anchor, paternity as ontological reality. Movement type, ersatz replacement. Dialectic mechanism, thesis, father is father, antithesis, father is provider, synthesis, Father is emotional plumber. Fallacy, category mistake, confusing the ontological role of the father with his instrumental function. Vice, sin, pride, codified in the mother's state-approved narrative that her emotional labor outranks the father's structural provision. Vector size, 9. Institutional effect, custody is awarded to the parent logging the highest volume of attunement and maintenance, demoting the father to a visitor who must perform affection to earn access. Path home, restore the presumption of joint physical custody grounded in biological lineage, not emotional metrics. Inversion vector 2, the bureaucratization of grief. Natural law anchor, suffering as purification, movement type, problem reaction solution. Dialectic mechanism, problem father leaves, reaction mother is victimized, solution state intervenes via therapy custody orders. Fallacy, false cause attributing paternal departure to a failure of maternal management rather than to rational self-defense against institutional bias. Vice, sin, resentment, elevating the maternal grievance to objective legal truth. Vector size, 7. Institutional effect. The father is pathologized for asserting boundaries. His silence is reclassified as emotional unavailability requiring therapeutic remediation. Path home, recognize paternal withdrawal as a rational institutional defense, not a pathology. Inversion vector 3, the infantilization of the adult. Natural law anchor, adult responsibility. Movement type, inversion of hierarchy. Dialectic mechanism, thesis, adults lead, antithesis, children's feelings matter most, synthesis, children's feelings dictate adult behavior. Fallacy, equivocation, conflating the child's best interest with the child's immediate emotional comfort. Vice, sin, sloth, choosing the easy work of validation over the hard work of discipline and truth. Vector size, 8. Institutional effect, custody rewards the parent who enables dependency and soothes anxiety, punishing the parent who fosters resilience. Path home, prioritize long-term character formation over short-term comfort in custody determinations. Inversion vector 4, the erasure of the male principle, natural law anchor, masculine order and logic. Movement type, deconstruction. Dialectic mechanism, thesis, male-female complementarity, antithesis, gender is a social construct, synthesis, gender is irrelevant to parenting. Fallacy, reductio ad absurdum, nullifying the father's unique contribution by rendering sex irrelevant to parental role. Vice, sin, envy, equalizing the father by stripping him of his distinctiveness. Vector size, 9. Institutional effect, the father is evaluated against maternal standards, ensuring his structural virtues are reclassified as deficits. Path home, recognize and value distinct paternal virtues, courage, stoicism, strategic provision, and ordered discipline. Inversion vector 5, the state as substitute father. Natural law anchor, subsidiarity. Movement type, centralization. Dialectic mechanism, thesis, family is autonomous, antithesis, family is flawed, synthesis, state is the ultimate parent. Fallacy, appeal to authority, substituting the state's therapeutic expertise for the father's innate knowledge of his own child. Vice, sin, cowardice, the abdication of parental sovereignty to the bureaucratic class. Vector size, 10, institutional effect. The family court becomes a tribunal of state power in which the father is a subject, not a sovereign, and his rights are reduced to privileges granted by utility scores. Path home, return custody disputes to private arbitration and common law, abolishing the state's monopoly on defining best interests. Natural law essay. The rule that entered the institution. In 1938, a seed was planted that would grow into a machine for the dissolution of the father. The family court custody best interest checklist, as it has been refined over decades, codified a quiet revolution. The statutory presumption that the parent who performs the highest volume of emotional labor and domestic maintenance holds superior fitness for custody. This is not a neutral metric. It is a substitution of blood covenant with service contract, of fatherhood with plumbership. The state defined the father not by his biological reality, his lineage, his protective authority, or his covenantal vow, but by his utility score on a checklist of chores and emotional attunement. The father became a functionary. His sacred duty to transmit life, order, and name was reduced to a performance review. The institution did not merely fail fathers, it redefined them out of existence. The father was replaced by the plumber, and the family became a state-managed nursery. The natural law origin point. The natural law of paternity is not a cultural preference. It is an ontological reality written into the order of being. The father is the bridge between the mother and the child. He is the protector who stands at the boundary, the provider who orders the household toward its ends, and the transmitter of lineage, name, and inheritance. His authority is inherent in his biological role and in his vow to the covenant. It is not earned by performing affection or logging quality time. It is not contingent on a therapist's assessment of his emotional availability. The father's authority flows from what he is, not from what he does. This is the grammar of creation. Every being has a nature. Every nature has an end, and every end defines a duty. The father's end is to beget, protect, provide, order, discipline, and transmit. To reduce this to plumbership is to commit a category error of cosmic proportions, confusing the role with the function, the being with the doing. The natural law is not negotiable. When you break it, you do not escape it. You break yourself against it. The inversion vectors. The first inversion is the utility of blood. The dialectic runs. Thesis: the father is father by nature. Antithesis: the father is provider by function. Synthesis: the father is emotional plumber by state decree. The ontological reality of paternity is replaced by an ersatz metric of domestic performance. The court awards custody to the parent who logs more attunement, more soothing, more maintenance. The father is demoted to a weekend visitor who must perform affection to earn access. His blood means nothing. His utility score means everything. The second inversion is the bureaucratization of grief. The dialectic problem: the father leaves. Reaction: the mother is victimized. Solution: the state intervenes with therapy and custody orders. The false cause is baked in. The father's departure is assumed to be a failure of maternal emotional management or a defect in his character, rather than a rational response to a hostile institutional bias. His silence is pathologized as emotional unavailability. His boundaries are reclassified as abandonment. The state elevates the mother's grievance to objective legal truth, and the father is sent to therapeutic re-education to fix his attitude. The third inversion is the infantilization of the adult. The dialectic: thesis: adults lead. Antithesis: children's feelings matter most. Synthesis: children's feelings dictate adult behavior. The equivocation is fatal. The child's best interest is conflated with the child's immediate emotional comfort. The court rewards the parent who enables dependency and soothes anxiety, punishing the parent who fosters resilience and discipline. The adult abdicates his authority to the child's mood, and the state enforces this abdication as law. The fourth inversion is the erasure of the male principle. The dialectic: thesis: male and female complementarity. Antithesis: gender is a social construct. Synthesis: gender is irrelevant to parenting. The reductio ad absurdum is complete. If gender is irrelevant, then the father's unique contribution is nullified. He is judged by maternal standards of nurturing and empathy, ensuring his structural virtues: courage, stoicism, strategic provision, ordered discipline are reclassified as deficits. The father cannot win a game whose rules are written to erase him. The fifth inversion is the state as substitute father. The dialectic: thesis: the family is autonomous. Antithesis: the family is flawed. Synthesis: the state is the ultimate parent. The appeal to authority is total. The state's expertise in child development trumps the father's innate knowledge of his own child. The family court becomes a tribunal of state power where the father is a subject, not a sovereign. His rights are privileges granted by the state's assessment of his plumbership. He does not own his child, he rents access. The fallacies and vices that powered the fall. Each inversion vector is powered by a specific fallacy and a corresponding vice, forming a descent through rebellion and will to control. The utility of blood rests on the category mistake, of confusing the ontological role of the father with his instrumental function. The vice is pride. The mother's state-approved narrative that her emotional labor is superior to the father's structural provision. This is not humility. It is the pride of the manager who believes she owns the company because she keeps the books. The bureaucratization of grief rests on the false cause of attributing paternal departure to a failure of maternal management rather than to rational self-defense. The vice is ressentiment, the institutionalization of the mother's grievance as objective truth. The state does not adjudicate justice, it enforces resentment. The infantilization of the adult rests on the equivocation of conflating the child's best interest with the child's immediate emotional comfort. The vice is sloth, the avoidance of the hard work of discipline and truth in favor of the easy path of emotional validation. It is easier to soothe than to correct, easier to enable than to form. The erasure of the male principle rests on the reductio ad absurdum of nullifying the father's unique contribution by rendering sex irrelevant to parental role. The vice is envy, the desire to make the father equal to the mother by stripping him of his distinctiveness. Envy does not raise the low, it drags down the high. The state as substitute father rests on the appeal to authority of substituting the state's therapeutic expertise for the father's innate knowledge. The vice is cowardice, the abdication of parental sovereignty to the bureaucratic class. Men gave away their authority because it was easier than fighting for it. These are not mere errors, they are sins. They are the will to control dressed in the language of compassion. They are rebellion against the order of being, and they bear the fruit of that rebellion, the dissolution of the family, the erasure of the father, and the enslavement of the child to the state. The cultural revolution ratchet. The ratchet moved in 10 deliberate steps. First, the father was defined as provider, an economic function only. Second, the mother was defined as nurturer, an emotional function only. Third, emotional labor was elevated as the primary metric of parenting value. Fourth, the best interests of the child was introduced as a flexible, state-defined standard, a blank check for judicial discretion. Fifth, biological presumption was replaced with psychological parenthood. Whoever acts as the mother is the mother, regardless of blood. Sixth, paternal authority was pathologized as dominance or rigidity. Seventh, therapeutic intervention was mandated for non-compliant fathers. Eighth, the plumber model was institutionalized. Father pays, mother manages, state oversees. Ninth, the concept of paternal right was erased in favor of paternal utility. 10th, the inversion was finalized. The child became the sovereign, the parents became the servants, and the state became the arbiter of all. This is not an accident, it is a ratchet. Each step made the next inevitable. The father did not lose his rights in a single battle. He lost them in 1,000 small concessions, each wrapped in the language of care. The human and civilizational cost. The ledger is not abstract. Fatherless homes produce children without lineage, without inheritance, without the ordering presence of the father. These children are more likely to live in poverty, to drop out of school, to commit crime, to suffer mental illness, to repeat this cycle of abandonment. The state steps in as substitute father, but the state is a bad husband. It provides checks, not discipline, programs, not presence, bureaucracy, not blood. Men withdraw. They see the game is rigged and they stop playing. They pay child support for children they cannot raise. They work longer hours to pay the state's bills. They die by suicide at 4 times the rate of women. They are told they are toxic, then told they are absent, then told they are irrelevant. The cost is not just to men, it is to civilization. A civilization that erases the father erases its own future. It becomes a nursery of dependent adults managed by a therapeutic state, incapable of self-governance, unable to transmit the virtues that make freedom possible. The way home. The way home begins with the restoration of the presumption of joint physical custody, grounded in biological lineage. The father's right to his child must be inherent, not earned through emotional performance. The best interest standard must be defined objectively: stability, lineage, virtue, and the formation of character, not the soothing of immediate anxiety. Paternal authority must be recognized as inherent, not contingent. The state's therapeutic monopoly on family dynamics must be broken. The father's role as primary protector and provider of order must be restored. Structural parenting. Discipline, provision, the transmission of virtue must be valued equally with emotional parenting. Custody disputes must return to private arbitration and common law, removing the state's monopoly on defining best interests. Mothers must be educated on the value of paternal distinctiveness. Fathers must be educated on the necessity of presence and engagement, not as performers of affection, but as bearers of order. The family must be reclaimed as a sovereign unit, not a state-managed nursery. This is not a return to the past, it is a return to the order of being. The father is not a plumber, he is a bridge, he is a protector. He is a transmitter of lineage. He is the telos of fatherhood made flesh. Restore him, and you restore the family. Restore the family, and you restore civilization. Restoration path. The restoration, 9 ways home. 1. Reclaim the grammar of fatherhood. A father is not a plumber. A father is not a service contractor. A father is not a weekend emotional attunement technician whose access to his own flesh and blood is metered out like a utility bill based on how many bedtime stories he logged this month. The word father comes from the Latin pater, the foundation, the source, the one who stands at the head of the household as a pillar holds a roof. Not because he is superior in feeling, but because he is structural. Paternity is ontological. It is not earned through chore performance. It is not granted by a judge's mood. A man who has begotten a child has begotten a child. This is a fact prior to all statute. Define the word correctly, and half the war is won. Let the father be father again. 2. Restore the presumption of equal custody. The current regime operates on a hidden premise that children are maternal property and fathers must petition for visitation like strangers, requesting audience with a king. Reverse it. The default must be joint physical custody based on biology, not a state-administered best interests checklist that rewards whoever performs the most therapeutic softness. If a parent wishes to deny the other parent access, let them prove harm with evidence, due process, cross-examination, and the full weight of adversarial testing. Not allegation, not feeling, evidence. The burden of proof must rest on whoever seeks to sever a child from a parent. Accusation is not proof. Emotion is not verdict. 3. Define best interests objectively. The phrase best interests of the child has become the most weaponized vagueness in Western law. It means whatever the judge's bias, the therapist's ideology, or the mother's attorney wants it to mean on a Tuesday. Replace it with concrete criteria: stability of household, continuity of lineage, access to both biological parents, financial provision, character formation, discipline, religious and moral instruction. Long-term flourishing, not short-term emotional comfort. A child's immediate happiness is not the same as a child's ultimate good. The parent who enforces bedtime, says no, and requires homework is not emotionally unavailable. He is doing the hard structural work of raising an adult reward. Stop punishing it. 4. Dismantle the therapeutic monopoly on family life. The court-ordered therapist, the custody evaluator, the parenting coordinator, these are not neutral professionals. They are ideologues with invoices. They pathologize paternal authority as rigidity. They read a father's silence under legal assault as emotional unavailability. They convert a man's grief at losing his children into a diagnostic category requiring more therapy, more sessions, more billing hours. Remove them. Family disputes belong in courts of law with rules of evidence, or in private arbitration by mutually agreed community elders, not in the consulting room of a state-licensed feelings manager whose entire income depends on finding something wrong with the father. Therapeutic governance is not compassion. It is control wearing a cardigan. 5. Re-establish household sovereignty. The family is the smallest unit of civilization. It precedes the state. It precedes the court. It precedes the school, the agency, the bureau, the NGO. The household must be treated as sovereign territory. The father and mother, under their covenant, govern the education, discipline, health, worship, and moral formation of their children. The state's role is to protect this sovereignty from external threat, not to colonize it from within through mandates, screenings, home visits, and mandatory reporting regimes that treat every parent as a suspect. The family is not a state-managed nursery. It is a covenantal institution with its own authority, its own law, its own economy, and its own telos. 6 values structural fatherhood. Not all fatherhood looks like cuddling. A father working 12-hour shifts to keep the lights on is parenting. A father enforcing rules, correcting disrespect, requiring effort, and saying no when no is the correct answer is parenting. A father who teaches his son to use tools, to fight, to stand upright, to control his tongue, to fear God, to respect women, to build, to repair, to endure. That man is performing the highest form of paternal love. Stop measuring fatherhood by maternal metrics. The masculine contribution is structural, formational, and often uncomfortable. It is no less essential. It is arguably more essential. A child raised on comfort alone is a child raised for weakness. 7. Build parallel institutions. Do not wait for the courts to reform themselves. They will not. Do not wait for the universities to rediscover truth. They have mutinied. Do not wait for the culture to celebrate fatherhood. It is currently invested in its demolition. Build your own private arbitration. Classical schools, parish communities, father-son guilds. Men's brotherhoods that are not therapy circles, but accountability, brotherhoods, men who hold men to the standard, not to the tissue. Homeschooling co-ops, apprenticeship networks. Local economies where men trade, build, hire, and mentor. The state's institutions have been captured by an ideology that sees fathers as optional accessories and children as state resources. Exit, build. Sustain your own infrastructure. A man with no institution behind him is a man the state can pick off at will. 8. Educate fathers in their own distinctiveness. Many men have internalized the plumber's role. They believe their value is measured in chore completion and emotional softness, because that is what the culture and the courts have told them for 3 generations. This is misformation. A father must learn what he uniquely provides: boundary, structure, challenge, initiation into adulthood, transmission of tradition, the naming of reality. No one else does this. No therapist, teacher, social worker, or state program can substitute for what a father specifically gives. Fathers must be educated not in therapeutic soft skills programs designed to make them more palatable to a gynocentric standard, but in the ancient and permanent duties of paternity. A man who knows his role cannot be gaslit out of it. 9. Restore the father as covenant head, not service provider. The deepest inversion is this: fatherhood was once a covenantal office with inherent authority and duty. It has been reduced to a service contract with conditional access based on performance metrics set by a hostile tribunal. A covenant cannot be unilaterally dissolved because one party feels unhappy. A service contract can be terminated at will. The enemy chose the framing deliberately. Restore the covenant. Marriage is a vow before God and community, not an emotional co-tenancy agreement revocable upon dissatisfaction. Fatherhood is a permanent status rooted in blood and oath, not a job performance evaluable by a social worker until this ontological floor is rebuilt. Every reform is scaffolding on a collapsed foundation. Maxim: a civilization that separates children from fathers will be separated from its own future. What you do to the family does to the nation. What the court does to the father's absence does to the boy. And the boy, raised wrong, does to everything else. Cultural revolution, ratchet. Define father as provider, economic function only. Define mother as nurturer, emotional function only. Elevate emotional labor as the primary metric of parenting value. Introduce best interests of the child as a flexible state-defined standard. Replace biological presumption with psychological parenthood, whoever acts as the mother. Pathologize paternal authority as dominance or rigidity. Mandate therapeutic intervention for non-compliant fathers. Institutionalize the plumber model. Father pays, mother manages, state oversees. Erase the concept of paternal right in favor of paternal utility. Finalize the inversion. The child is the sovereign. The parents are the servants. Ways home. Re-establish the presumption of joint physical custody based on biology. Define best interests objectively, stability, lineage, and virtue. Recognize paternal authority as inherent, not earned through emotional performance. Remove the state's therapeutic monopoly on family dynamics. Restore the father's role as the primary protector and provider of order. Value structural parenting, discipline provision, equally with emotional parenting. Create private arbitration systems for custody disputes. Educate mothers on the value of paternal distinctiveness. Educate fathers on the necessity of presence and engagement. Reclaim the family as a sovereign unit, not a state-managed nursery. I want you to remember where this began, not in a courtroom, not in a statute book, not in the dusty proceedings of some family law review board, where well-credentialed strangers sat around a table and decided that fatherhood was a metered utility. It began at a birth, your son's first breath, your daughter's first cry, that moment when a man looks at a newborn child and knows not because a judge told him, not because a therapist signed off on his emotional attunement score, but because the whole architecture of his body and his blood and his vow declared it. This is mine to protect, mine to raise, mine to answer for. That is the origin. That is the seed from which every civilization grew. Paternity was never a chore roster. It was a covenant hammered in bone. The evil of the inversion is precise, and I want you to measure it without rage clouding your count. A court, an institution that could not exist without the labor, the taxes, the roads, the laws, and the physical security that men built and died for, looks at a father and says, "You are not a father. You are a service provider. Your fitness will be graded on your willingness to perform domestic maintenance tasks that we have arbitrarily designated as the true substance of parenting. Your protection means nothing. Your discipline means nothing. Your name means nothing. Produce your emotional labor receipts or lose your child. That is not justice wearing different clothes. That is a machine eating something sacred and calling the process equity. It converts a blood bond into a performance review, a lineage into a line item, and a man's household sovereignty into a state-administered visitation schedule. Every man reduced to weekend visitor status is a 100-fold loss, not just to himself, but to his children's identity, his community's stability, and the civilizational memory that says fathers matter because fathers are. Not because fathers function adequately per a rubric designed by people who have never built anything. So here is what you do today. Tonight at your table, sit at the head of it, not as a tyrant, not as a fragile, ego-demanding tribute, as a father. Look at your children and speak to them as their father, not their co-parent, not their emotional support technician, not their mom's auxiliary helper. Teach them something true, a prayer, a proverb, the name of an ancestor, a skill with your hands, a story about what a man owes to what he loves. Claim your role by exercising it. The state cannot grant you what is already yours by nature, and it cannot truly take what it never gave, but it can make you forget you ever had it. So remember and act like a man who remembers. Sponsored book, The Power Paradigm. Men are not born to apologize. I learned this lesson at age 12, watching my father lose his factory job to a machine that didn't unionize, complain, or demand sensitivity training. He drank, the machine didn't. That steel claw outworked him, outlasted him, and rewired my understanding of power before I could shave. 30 years later, as a strategist advising Fortune 500 boards and Special Forces units, I've seen the same pattern. Civilizations fall when men confuse strength with cruelty and vulnerability with virtue. This book is a blood-stained map through the wreckage of that lie. If you're reading this, you already sense the rot. You've been told to open up while women swipe left on soft-handed poets. You watch politicians send other men's sons to die for oil fields, then lecture you about carbon footprints. You notice birth rates crater as TikTok therapists pathologize fatherhood. This isn't coincidence, it's warfare. The chapters ahead dissect 12 battlegrounds where power shifts from fists to fuel rods to algorithms, exposing why male suicide spiked 60% since 2010. Hint: it's not antidepressants, and how Elon Musk's feud with big oil mirrors Genghis Khan's horse raids. Soft men will hate this book. Feminized academics will call it dangerous. Good. Their panic proves we're over the target. If you'd rather debate pronouns than learn why 73% of Fortune 500 CEOs are introverts who've weaponized silence, close this cover now. Go knit a sweater. For the rest, the builders, the fighters, the quiet strategists, this is your field manual. You'll learn why physical dominance still rules NFL, combines, and special forces selection, why oil wars are just ape chest thumping with drones, and how to exploit AI's rise instead of becoming its pet. I've bunkered with billionaires who control more wealth than nations, and drunk with mercenaries who stabilize failing states. Both groups understand the same truth. Power never disappears, it just changes hands. The brawn-to-brain ratio theory I'll unpack explains why societies crumble when desk jockeys dismiss bricklayers. My energy Darwinism framework reveals why fracking broke OPEC's spine. And the Prometheus complex detailing Oppenheimer's nukes to Zuckerberg's legless avatars shows how men either master technology or get neutered by it. This isn't self-help. It's a survival kit. You'll finish these pages knowing why female mating strategies secretly steer Bitcoin prices, how to dodge the double-bind dominance trap feminists set, and whether merging with AI will make you a god or a fossil. The data is here. Harvard studies on trader testosterone, Credit Suisse's wealth charts, Tinder's hypergamy stats. The anecdotes cut deep. Hemingway's suicide after being labeled toxic, Chernobyl's hubris, Soros breaking the Bank of England. To the men still willing to lead, your ancestors built empires with spears and discipline. You'll need code and cold rationality. The road's brutal, but the alternative, a world where boys outsource ambition to chatbots and governments confiscate sperm, deserves contempt, not compliance. Time to choose. The Power Paradigm, written by Conrad Reiche. Buy now, links in description.